Then. Thank you. All right, everybody. Hello, and thank you for joining us today, and welcome to the fiscal year 26-27 Creative Districts Capital Project Grants info session. I'm really excited to have launched and opened this application for these grants, and just want to talk through and hopefully help you all out with the application and answer any questions you may have today. First of all, my name is Aaron Seymour. I am the Creative Districts Program Manager. I use he, him pronouns, and I will be running this info session today. And I'm going to pass it over to Adrian quick so she can introduce herself as well.
I think I've met most of you at the convening. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Community Relations Program Coordinator here at Artois. Back to you, Aaron.
Thanks, Adrian. Adrian will be running the Zoom session today and also monitoring questions in the chat and helping field questions for us. I wanted to let everybody know that auto-generated captioning is available. So if you need that, you can click the CC button at the bottom of your page. And if you don't see that, you should be able to click the More tab and you should be able to find it under there. I want to make sure everyone knows in this meeting that only Washington State Certified Creative District administrating organizations are eligible for this grant program. So if you somehow ended up in this session and you are not from a Washington State Certified Creative District, just know that you are not eligible for these grants that we're going to be talking about today. We are recording this session and this will be available for download after the session. I'll send a follow-up email probably sometime around October 1st, where I will hopefully be answering any additional questions that maybe we came up today that we weren't able to answer, or questions that we didn't get to in that. And in that email, there will also be a link to this recording. I want to encourage everybody to please keep yourself on mute while we're going through this session, and put any questions that you have in the chat. Adrian will be monitoring those, and we'll try to answer some questions as we go through each section. I'm going to take pauses after each section, and I'll have Adrian call out any questions that she's found at that time. And then we'll also have time at the end for more questions to get into anything that maybe we didn't get to answer as we were going through the application. And like I said, any questions not answered will be answered in the follow-up email around October 1st. So Adrian, you can share the grant webpage screen for us, please. This you should have all received the link to. This is, when you click that link, this is kind of the home for all things related to this grant, and also where you can get to the grant application, download the grant guidelines, etc. The purpose of the Creative Districts Capital Project Grant is to enable Washington State's certified creative districts to make small-scale capital investments within the boundaries of their districts. These projects better enable districts to increase community visibility, attract visitors, and bring in new activity and revenues. Projects are meant to be bricks and mortar, which may include, but is not limited to, investments in wayfinding, lighting, installed signage, frontage improvements, electronic reader boards, pathway connections, public murals or sculptures, visitor kiosks, public performance spaces or stages, and more. There is available a total funding pool this round of $445,000 for these grants, which will be divided amongst grant winners. I'm going to go through a quick timeline review of how this grant is going to work. As you all know, the grants opened on Tuesday this week, September 23rd. They will be due November 20th by 5 p.m. In January of 2026, we will distribute preliminary approval notifications sent to applicants. So this is based on review from ArtSWA staff, if you've been preliminarily approved. And then in February 2026, those approved grants will go before the ArtSWA Board of Commissioners for final approval. And we will start working on and distributing contracts for approved projects to sign in March of 2026. And that is when your project work will begin. We will also have a mid-project update happening in September of 2026, just kind of a check-in with all of you to see how these projects are going. And then all project work must be complete, and the final report is due by June 30th, 2027. These applications will be in Submittable, which is a newer program that we're working with. All of you, except for the two newest districts, should already have Submittable accounts because that is what we used for our annual reports this year. And Submittable allows you to save and return to your application. Submittable resource links are available on the grant webpage. I think if Adrian scrolls down a little bit, you can see those. So if you're having any problems or questions with Submittable, you can likely find your answers there. Or if you have issues with Submittable specifically, you can contact Adrian as well about those. You are able to submit more than one project in this round, but you need to do separate applications for each project if you're doing more than one. So you would create two different applications in Submittable. In the past, we have also accepted requests for WashDOT sign funding through this same grant process. That will now be a separate grant process. So to some of our newer districts who may be looking for funding for WashDOT signs, this will be on a district by district basis from now on. So we'll have conversations just one-on-one about that, and there will be a different grant process for that. I'm just going to pause real quick to see if there's any questions that have come up so far before we dive into the application. Adrian, has anything come into chat yet?
Seen anything yet? If anyone would like to raise their hand and ask a question now, you'd be more than welcome.
All right, well, let's dive into the application then. And I'm going to start first off with Adrian, who is going to demonstrate to you how to find your organization, or if you have to create a new organization when you first log into Submittable for this grant.
Thank you, Aaron. Hopefully everyone can see this up on the screen now. So when you first click that application link from the web page, the link for the web page is in the chat, by the way. When you first click that link, you're going to come to this page. And this just gives you a quick overview about the grant. It's the same information you would have seen on the web page. So if you're ready to dive in, you can scroll all the way to the bottom. And you're going to see this down here, which is the organization identifier. Now, this is something that most of you may have seen if you've used Submittable before for other applications. This is something new that we're bringing to you for creative districts this time. You're going to search. You can use your organization name. You can use a UEI. You can also use an EIN. If you do not have one of those numbers, this organization search will likely not work for you. Now, I'm going to call that out right now because everyone that is a certified district has one of those numbers, but I was not able to confirm that for Hilliard, which is one of our newest districts. So if Hilliard struggles with this, please contact me and I've got a workaround for you. Don't worry about it, all right? So I'm just going to start off by putting Chuila in there, and it probably, let's see, helps if I spell it right. And search the organization. You see how I just typed the one part of the name in there. and it pops up and gives me a whole different list of options. So what I would do is scroll down here, if I were Chewelah, find the Chewelah Creative District, select and continue. And this way you know for sure that the application is going to be linked to the same profile that you're using for other grants. This actually won't make a huge difference for you. It makes a huge difference for us on the back end so that we make all of these connections with the profile. So Erin, are you ready to dive into the application itself, or maybe we should
Yeah.
pause for questions?
Oh, sure. We can pause for questions and then, yeah, you can pull up the application as well. I'll also just add here that what you'd be searching for is the name of your administrative organization. And in Chewelah's case, their administrative organization is a nonprofit called Chewelah Creative District. So that's why it is named that. But if you have a different organization, that is the name you'd be searching for in here.
That's an important clarification. Thank you, Erin.
Yeah.
All right, I didn't see any questions. So here we go with the application.
So first is the applicant information section. I don't want to spend very much time on this because it's all pretty self-explanatory, but I wanted to just hit a few things here. The applicant must be the Creative District Administrating Authority. So you must certify that the final project will produce benefit for at least 5 years and must be the certifying or the administrating authority is the only people who can do this application. Under artistic discipline, that is the artistic discipline of the admin org again. So if, like in the case of Chewelah, you are a nonprofit serving the whole creative district, it would probably be, I think there's a choice for other under there or something of that nature. But when choosing the artistic discipline, that's how you do that. There is a section, yeah, other, because a district kind of serves many of these things, or you could also check multiple boxes. Another section I wanted to touch on quickly is ADA compliance. This is a state requirement that any grants that the state is paying out meet the state legal requirements for ADA compliance, and you can read through all of those on here, but this checkbox is required. And then there's a section on conflict of interest. This is us trying to see if you have a ArtSWA board member or an ArtSWA staff that may be involved with your district or this project in some way. If your answer is yes, that does not in any way mean that you can't get this grant. It's just a way for us to know this, and it really comes down to when this goes in front of the board and we vote on these projects, certain board members may have to recuse themselves if we're aware of a conflict of interest with one of the districts. But it doesn't prevent you from receiving this grant. And then one other thing is this authorizing official versus primary grant contact versus project coordinator. There's 3 different sections here. You do have to fill all of these out, even if it's the same person. I apologize for that, but we just want to make sure, because in some cases it's not the same person. Your authorizing official who's going to sign these grants may be different than the person who's managing the project, and sometimes the project coordinator is someone different if this is on a site that is related to your district but not under the control of your administrating organization, et cetera. So just wanted to touch on that quickly and make sure that all of those get filled out. I'm going to pause for questions quickly here and see if there's any questions at this point, and then after this, we'll move on to project information.
I don't see how to hold my hand up, but I have a quick question if no one else does.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, I was curious about that part you just went over with the primary contact, project coordinator, et cetera. If it would be possible to change the project coordinator later on and maybe just start with, say, for example, myself as the primary contact under that part, and then assign a project coordinator later as we continue to develop that?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why that would be an issue. If yeah, as long as we have a primary contact that we know and we know who's going to be the person administering this contract. That's maybe the most important thing at this point. And if a different project coordinator is brought in along the lines, we can certainly adjust for that.
Thank you.
I can add a little bit to that. We're going to actually send you a confirmation form when your project gets to the point of being accepted and funded. And then at that point, if you have a dedicated project coordinator, that'll be your opportunity to officially change them. And at any point, you can also just reach out and we can just manually change it for you.
Thank you. All right, well, let's move on to section 2, which is project information. This first question is if you have received previous CDCP funding. That is specifically about capital funding for creative districts, not about any of your other grants, your operating grants. And all we really want here is the total funded amount from any CDCP grants that you've received. Again, this does not prevent you in any way from getting one of these new rounds of grants, just something we want to know heading in. Then this moves on to the project title, project description, and project location. Again, I don't think I need to go into too much detail here. This is really you just writing out what this is and where it's going to be. That's the intent of this for us to know. Any partnerships that you have must provide a copy of an executed joint operating agreement at the time of the application that demonstrates that the final project will produce public benefit for at least 5 years. It establishes which party has authority to oversee execution of the project and contains a contingency plan to address the possibility of dissolution or other change of ownership to address how public funds will be protected. And this is just important because we know that, creative districts are a partnership between many organizations. So we just really, want to see if this is on city property or if this is on private property, that the agreement is in place and there's a plan in place. If someone were to say, lose a lease on the building where you're doing the work or sell the property or anything like that. Moving on to the project timeline. This is a table that we've put in here for you. We do ask that you fill this out in the application process, but these dates are approximate. We realize that at this time, it might be hard to know all of this, but we still want you to kind of think this through and at least be thinking ahead as you submit these applications to have a decent idea in place. So that's really the intent of this. It's not something that we're going to hold you to 100%, but it is to help you plan all the stages of your project over the course of this project. And then the next section is to explain why this is a clear and compelling addition to your creative district. This is not about the what, which is kind of what these sections above where you're explaining what the project is and where it is, that's the what. But this is really about the why. This is where we want you to tell us why it is this project is going to be beneficial to your creative district. And then finally, all of you are eligible to request up to $50,000, depending on the total budget of your project, but $50,000 is the topping off point for this application. So I'm going to pause now. I saw some questions coming in. I didn't have a chance to read any of them, but let's try to answer some of those questions now before we move on.
And so the first question comes from Ruth Ann. Are there examples of a binding partnership agreement?
Yes, I definitely have examples of those from earlier capital grant projects, and I'm happy to get those out to you all. And maybe we can, that gives me a thought. Perhaps I could make some and remove identifying details and get a download link up on the website for you all as well. But for now, reach out to me if you'd like to see one of those. I can send them.
Does a memorandum of understanding constitute the same thing?
Yeah, basically that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a document that is between the two organizations or however many organizations are involved, and signed and dated from those organizations to show that this is all agreed upon.
Question is from Tori. I'm assuming that if we are asking for funding for a portion of a project, it's only our portion that needs completing by the deadline. And then she clarified, the city is building a stage and we want to place art near it, but the stage isn't done yet, but our art is.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I would just treat in that case, I would treat the art that you're doing as your own project. If it's going to be installed before the stage, and just make sure that that's doable, and I would be sure to describe the intent of that artwork and why it's being placed there and what it's being placed near. Just describe that in the application. And similarly, if you're doing a project that is part of a larger project, that is maybe being funded by a city or something, you can be applying for your specific part of that project, but make sure in the description in the project to really and in the budget to really describe all of that thoroughly to us so that we understand how your portion of this fits into the larger project.
Question just came in from Alex. Is this a reimbursement of expenditures or is the funding front loaded?
We're about to get into that, Alex. Yeah, this is a reimbursement grant, and that's what we're going to talk about in this next section on project budget. So let me just make sure we don't have any other questions about project information, and then we'll move on to budget. And this is where we kind of really get into those details and match details and all of that, where it's a little bit more complex.
I just want to say I missed the first couple minutes of the meeting, just in case there were introductions. I am the chairman of the Ellensburg Arts Commissioner and sit on we are the governing entity for the Ellensburg Creative District.
Nice, thank you.
Okay.
All right, was there anything else or moving on to budget?
Let's see, we just had one other thing just come in from Ruth Ann regarding partnerships with city projects. If the city has a designated fund and can contribute, where does that fit in? I think we might actually cover that in budget too.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a budget question. I guess that might be specific from project to project, and we can talk through how that might work. I'm not sure exactly how that city budget will work, but they could be, if they're putting that money into this, that could potentially be your match for what you're getting from Artois. It just depends how those funds are being used from the city, I think. All right, let's go into project budget now. So your total budget for these projects is different than the requested grant amount because these are a matching grant, and it requires a 100% match. There are options for match reductions as well, so I'll get to that a little later. But just off the bat, we'll say these require a 100% match. And the entire project budget can be larger than that as well. Like if you're asking for 50,000 and you have a 50,000 match, you can still be working on a project that's a $200,000 project. This is just the part of the budget that is relevant to Artois and the grant that we're giving you. Also, these are reimbursement funds. So you must have the funds available to do this work. This money will be paid to you as reimbursements. Eligible versus ineligible costs. These are laid out pretty clearly in the guidelines. I kind of touched on them a little bit in the intro, what is allowed, what's considered a capital project, but please review these in the guidelines. It defines what is considered capital. And if you have any questions about your project specifically, if it falls under a capital project or not, We may have time to answer that in this session, or you can always reach out to me with specific questions about your project after this. The applicants must secure the required match before the Arts Commission awards the grant. Artswa grants rather, are intended to be the final source of funding for a project. To be eligible, all matching resources must be an integral and necessary part of the approved project. They must be part of the work identified in the application and grant agreement. They must be allocated for eligible work types or elements, and they must be committed to this project. Matching resources must not be used as match in another agency or board funded project. Essentially, we're saying you can't double up what you're considering a match across multiple projects that you're doing. What is an eligible match? Appropriations and cash, bonds from a city council or voter bonds, donations. These can be cash donations, equipment donations, labor, land, materials, property rights, or services. So a lot of those are in kind, you'll notice, and we can get a little bit more into the in kind as well. But you do not have to have full cash for the entire amount of what you're considering your match. A force account, which is the value of using sponsors' equipment, labor, or materials, or proceeds of a letter of credit or a binding loan commitment. So if you have a loan or credit that you're using to complete this project as well. What is not allowed as a match? Costs that are double counted. I kind of mentioned this before, but a cost incurred by a sponsor in a project that already has been reimbursed or used as a match in another Artswa project. Costs that are not eligible for grant assistance. So these are costs that are not capital costs, essentially. Costs that are not necessary or an integral part of the project scope, or costs associated with meeting a mitigation requirement unrelated to the funded project. So I'm going to pause for questions now around these match requirements here. Any questions in the chat?
The only question we've got is for larger projects, what if the project is much larger and we're looking for funds to complete a phase of the project?
Yes, that is okay. You just need to frame it that way and make very clear in your budget that you send to us what phase of the project that is. I would, want to see the full budget and how this phase fits into it, and basically making sure to call that out so it's understood that this is just one phase.
Question just came in from Ruthann. Are any expenses incurred prior to the award allowed as part of the match?
No, not if they're expenses incurred prior to the award.
Hey, Aaron, this is Mary Grace and Olivia.
Yeah.
You just described something called a force account, and I don't think I've heard that before. Can you run through that again, please?
I'm going to have to read up more on that, because this is in the guidelines. A force account, I don't fully understand that myself, to be honest with you, but it has to do with kind of forced expenses that are incurred that were not foreseen, as I understand it. And it's usually from the it would be from a contractor that you're working with. That's my understanding of it based on what I've read, but I need to know a little bit more about force account exactly, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
To be continued. Thank you.
Yeah, because I saw that in there too from earlier guidelines and around our what we count as matchable, and I started reading up on it as well.
I mean, I don't understand how, if it's an unanticipated expense, how you could possibly use that as a match. right? Isn't that how you
That's-
explained it?
Yes, that is a good point.
So it's okay if you don't know now.
That'll
Don't
be a
sweat
to
it.
be continued. I'm going to add down for my follow-up email to look up more on force account and what exactly that is referring to in regards to this grant.
Super.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thanks for calling that out. All right, is that all we have on this section?
Like it. Did you want to show the budget form?
Yeah, let's move on to the budget form. Oh, was someone going to ask a question? I heard.
Oh, it's Nicole again. I was, let's see, going to ask, as far as matching goes, you said something about there being situations where maybe there's a deferment or it's not quite 100%. And I thought I had seen something for Langley and our median income maybe being eligible for like 60 or 65%.
Yeah. So I'm going to go into, after I talk about this budget form right now, then I'm going to get into match reductions and how those work. And
okay,
so we'll go
perfect.
through that. And yeah, there's a little bit of a process, but I think it's pretty easily understandable. And we'll go through that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So yes, I just wanted to show you the budget form next. We have two options here. We're including a budget form in this application that you can use. You can fill this in when you do the application right here, or you have the option to upload your own budget form. But even if you do that, I think this provided form can really help as a template with creating your own budget, even if it may not meet your specific needs. And some budgets may be a lot more complex than what we've provided you here, especially if your project is a phase of a larger project. I don't think this is going to work for you. But one thing I do want to call out in this is the categories that we have in this budget really do represent well what are eligible expenses under a capital grant. So these are both in the guidelines, but also in the budget as you go through this. So these are worth taking a look at if you're having questions about what's considered an eligible capital grant expense. And then, oh yes, the next section is a question about additional funding. So the reason this is included is because Artswa and myself have just worked on a supplemental budget request that has been made to the state to ask for more money specifically for this project and for capital funds for creative districts. We have no way of knowing right now if that capital request is going to be approved or not, but if it is, we may have more money available for this. So we are providing a space where if your project is larger than this, you can put in here approximately how much more money you think that you could use for this budget. So we know this. If that money is approved, we'll be looking at this and coming back to districts that have put additional money in here to see if you can use it if the funding comes through. Know that a match is still required for this additional funding if we receive it. But you know, if your project is much larger, go ahead and throw a number in here, and you don't have to be shy or reserved about what the number is you put in here. Put in what you could use. I'm going to pause quick for questions here, and then we're going to get into the match reduction after this. Any questions around budget right now?
I have one from Nicole. How might that be tied into the capital grant available this spring?
I'm not sure what you mean by that, Nicole. Can you?
Yeah, I can
what capital grant
clarify.
this spring are you referring to?
Okay, I don't have my computer in front of me to find the email, but I thought I was tracking another capital grant to keep an eye out for later. in 2026, spring of 2026, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Oh,
and
I
and
think I know what
so
you're thinking of, and that's not an ArtsWA grant, but I do work in admit, getting information out about that grant too. You're probably thinking about building for the arts.
yes, that's what I'm thinking about. And I was just
Okay.
trying to, in my mind, structure what project it is we might be applying for and whether or
Okay.
not we could phase that with this current grant that you're going over and maybe an element for the other grant you just mentioned in the spring. Once you said additional funding could be used, I was like, oh, well, can we also tie this into, that upcoming
Well,
grant? But that might
the,
be a little bit complicated.
these
I don't
are
know.
these are two different grants and two different sources of funding. The Building for the Arts is through the Department of Commerce, but it is, of course, intended for arts. There is actually a significantly larger amount of funding available in the Building for the Arts grants, and that will be opening in the spring of 2026. But they're kind of two separate things. It is possible, I suppose, that they could end up being two phases of the same larger project, but it's just going to require a lot of coordinating and planning on the end of someone who maybe wanted to undertake that.
Okay, that helps clarify things.
But
Thank
this
you.
additional funding question is specifically related to this grant. So it's like, if you're only asking for 50 because that's our topping off point, but you could really use 100, this is where you could pop in another 50. And maybe if we end up getting that funding, we could get that to you. But it's a big if at this point.
Other questions for this section?
All right, I'm going to move on to, is there another question coming in here?
See, let's see, sorry, I missed it. If
Oh.
the additional funding also, is the additional funding also needed to be matched?
Yes, it is. It's under the same requirements as the initial funding you'll receive. So this is really about if you have a large project that you're undertaking, that you've already got, mapped out in the budget for, but you're looking for additional money for it. But it does need to be matched as well. All right, I'm going to move into match reduction. So many of the districts actually will be eligible for this as a community in need. This is based on the median income of the zip code or zip codes of your district. And you'll find a match reduction category based on where that median income falls. So something that's really cool in this new application that we built in Submittable, or that Adrian built, I should say, Adrian made this handy calculator in here, and all you need to do is plug your median income in here into this open box here, and it will automatically tell you what category of match reduction you fall into. So Adrian's kind of demonstrating it right now. My screen is so small. Adrian, what does that say your match reduction is there? 65?
So when I plugged in the 64,500 as a median household income, it gave you a 65% as the minimum match required.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to walk through a little example of this based on the 65%. So say your total project budget is $100,000, which means you have a $50,000 match required, or you're asking us for the full 50,000 that you can ask for. But your district's zip code median income is say 75% of the state median income. That means that you're eligible for the match reduction, and you are required to match 65% of 50,000. So in that case, your match requirement would be reduced to 32,500. That's just 50,000 times 65%, right? So if you, and there's 3 different categories you can fall into here for a match reduction. So you could still request the $50,000 from Artois, but you would only yourself need to show 32,500. The next part of this is that in-kind labor and donations do count toward the match, so, or can count toward the match. So that in this case, 32,500 does not have to be all cash. Those in-kind labor donations can be well over the match amount too. You don't have to limit them to what you're required for the match. You know, but I would definitely track any sort of in-kind donations that you are planning to use, including labor or professional services. So professional labor or services are calculated at the rate that a volunteer would normally charge for their services. And this must be documented with invoices to show what their standard rate is. And then non-professional labor will be calculated at current Washington state minimum wage, which is $16.66 an hour. So when estimating this project, and estimating what labor you're going to be using, if you're putting that towards in kind, this is where you will need to do that. There's also a match requirement certification form that you have to upload. And this is just your certification signed and dated that you do have these matching funds or these in-kind matches available and ready to go in order to get these grant funds. And that the match requirement certification form is downloadable on the grant website, the earlier website that Adrian was showing you. It's not here in the application, but it's on the website. And then finally, there's a section at the end that is just for supplemental documents. I'll let Adrian is showing here. Yeah, that's the link where you can get this certification of matching funds form that we require you to upload. And yeah, the final section is supplemental documents. This is where you can put things like designs for your project, feasibility studies, letters of support, archaeological surveys, site photos, anything like that that you think would be helpful to know or help your application along, or just things that we should be seeing, like designs if you already have those made for your project. So I'm going to open up now just to broader Q&A. We can start with anything in this section around match reduction, but then any other questions that anybody has as well.
Thanks, Aaron. We have one question from Nicole. Is the best source the district median income, the data we received for our annual reports?
Yes, you can either use that. I think we even have links to this in the application, if I remember right. You can use that, or there is also a link to the what I'm blanking on the link now, but the federal source for those funds, which is really where that information came from anyway. But yeah, the reports I gave you for your annual reports, that is absolutely a valid source for calculating your median income.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if this is covered or not, but do the projects have to occur within the district itself or in the community?
It does have to be within your district guidelines.
It is within the boundaries of the district.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, good. Okay. Thank you.
So if anyone has a question, would you like to raise your hand or go ahead and let us know that you're ready to talk?
I have a quick
Okay.
question.
All right.
Sorry, Erin. It's Nicole again.
No, oh, no problem. I was gonna say
Um,
I can't have done so well that there's no questions here.
You did great.
I'm
Yeah,
still learning my way through this process too. This is my, my first time doing these capital grants. So, yeah,
uh,
Nicole, go ahead.
you have answered a lot of questions along the way, so thank you for that. I was curious about, um, since this is my first year as an administrator, if this grant has been issued in the past, and if there's a place to find successful examples of projects that have utilized this grant.
Yeah, this is the third time that these capital grants have have been granted to the creative districts. There were, I mean, a lot of these projects were just wrapping up in at the end of this past fiscal season, and a few of them have been rolled over actually into the next fiscal season that are still being worked on. But yeah, there's a lot of great examples from creative districts that have done projects through this grant funding already. And it is, they always happen on the biennium. So the last round was 2024, fiscal year 24 and 25. And this next round is 26-27. Is there anyone here in the meeting that might want to talk about a project that they did in their district from a past capital grant for creative districts quickly? It's okay if not. I don't know if
I'm
oh, go on.
I'm also curious if most applicants meet the grant deadline, and is this also the type of grant where you need the photographic evidence with your submission?
We do, so there's a final, there's a grant closeout form that we have people fill out. It'll be slightly different this time because we're using this new system, Submittable, but in that we do ask for submission of not only receipts and proof of completion of the project, but also photos of the project. That's, I mean, not just for proof of completion, but also just, for our program for documenting the work that has been done. And so we can kind of show off projects that districts have done as well. So, I mean, I got a lot of photos in June of last year from districts that were wrapping this up. Regarding if people completed in time, there were some struggles with that in this last round, and we were lucky in that we were able to extend some of these grants into this next fiscal year to let people finish those projects. But I want to say that is not guaranteed that can happen. We were able to do that this time, but I don't think it's something that districts should bank on. So I'm really trying to push for, and also that's part of the reason we're doing this like mid-project check-in as part of the process to try to make sure that people are moving along this on time. And as Adrian is showing right here, this is part of the reason we're asking for you to estimate your dates for 25, 50, and 75% completion as well. In saying that, though, I realize that a lot of times, the complications that people ran into were, it wasn't because they weren't doing this work, it was because the, permitting things had slowed things down with the city, or, I realize that there are sometimes unanticipated things that come up that slow projects down. But to the best of your ability, I would hope that people can try to anticipate and get ahead of those things so that they can complete this project by June 30th, 2027.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just kind of curious, as you mentioned, those unanticipated barriers of uh, timelines for projects of this scale, what sort of things people are running into, but besides permits, and then maybe like finding contractors or cost of materials or supply chains, and just trying to get an idea of the scope of project we want to submit based on barriers people have been running into so that we can fulfill it in a timely manner.
Yeah, so hopefully, I mean, those are things that I know it can't all be answered immediately between now and the due date in November, but if those conversations could even, start in the process of this application, I think that would really help people be well prepared when they submit this to have these projects completed in time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like if you're planning to do a big project with the city, but you need to be engaging the city now in the process of the application, not after the application is turned in, would be my best recommendation there. All right, anything else? So the big the takeaways I have, things I still need to answer, is I'm going to look more into that force account info and what exactly that is about and try to find out more on that. And also to try to provide some examples for you also. I can probably pull together like, a PDF that maybe has examples of contracts, or also a PDF with examples of projects that have been done. And if you've been in any, creative districts that have been around for a while, you may see things like, district markers and stuff that they've put up, like Bainbridge just with this last round of funding, they installed a bunch of these really beautiful cut metal district markers is what they call them. They're kind of signs, but they're also solar powered and they light from the inside and they have beautiful carvings in them, and they're all throughout their district, and they just really add a great sense of knowing that you're in the creative district and really add something to the district. There've been lighting projects done. There's been a lot of murals funded with these projects as well. TWISP, I know, did a mural on each end of their creative district, so you see it when you're coming in, you see it from both sides, or when you're leaving, so you know when you're entering or leaving. Things like that are a great use of this budget. And I would encourage everybody to think about that when they're thinking about these projects. It doesn't have to be this, but what can you do to make it very apparent and visible to people that they're in your creative district when they come in? I think that's something that could probably, from my experience visiting a lot of districts, that's something that could be a little stronger in a lot of districts, that you've entered the creative district when you get there. Pedestrian improvements, bike racks, pathways, lighting. There's a lot of ideas. There's been Chewelis did a project with a public stage. They provided shade over it because people were baking in the sun when they were performing. So there's a lot of options that can be done with this.
A question that came in from Daria.
Oh, yeah.
Can you please recap the total we can apply for? And is there a portfolio of projects we can look at for inspiration?
Yeah, so the maximum amount you can request right now is 50,000, but there is the place on there to add if your project could use additional funds, and it's shown in your budget, there's a place where you can ask for additional funds as well. So 50,000 max request now, additional funds if they're available later, you can include that. And there is no limit on that additional request, because we don't know what or if we're going to get more funds. And then something I'm coming away from here is that I need to show examples of past projects. So I'm going to work on pulling something like that together to send out to everybody so you can see examples of past projects that have been done.
Thank you so much. I think as a new district that's getting our footing, we would love to think outside the box a little bit more on the potential. We already have a lot of like the banners and murals and bike racks are already being implemented. So now we're sitting here ready to like think bigger.
Yeah, you guys have already, this is Daria is from Hilliard, one of our newest districts, and they had many projects well underway before their certification, which is really awesome. But keep thinking. I'm sure you'll come up with something, or you maybe already have a lot of ideas.
I was just thinking that the lighting example you shared, it would be cool to see. And I remember when we were in Tenino, we saw that really cool signage. So I'm the one that asked about a portfolio. It'd be really cool to see how other folks have used not just this funding, but other infrastructure funding to really mark their district. Yeah, we would love to copy anyone's great ideas.
That's a great idea to compose it or compile it into a sort of portfolio. And yeah, Tenino has really great signage in their district. They have these kind of cut out high contrast signs on their light poles running all the way through the district. And they also have banners in addition to that. But yeah, they're a great example where, you know, when you're coming into that main strip there, you know I'm in the Tenino Creative District pretty clearly. Okay, well that's we are up on 5 o'clock now, so I'm gonna work on getting portfolio pulled together, examples of some memorandums of understanding and from past projects as well, and look up the force account info, and then we will get this out to you sometime around October 1st. I'm actually going to Soap Lake on October 1st, so if it's delayed a little bit, I apologize. But we'll get it out to you very soon in early October, and also a recording of this session. And of course, always reach out to me with any questions that you think of after this or throughout the process as you're working on the application. I'm happy to answer any of those. And if you have any problems with Submittable specifically, reach out to Adrian with those, or read the Q&A that is on, or FAQ rather, that's on our website about Submittable as well. Thanks so much for joining us today, everybody. And I hope to see you all soon.